So now we're going to talk about replacement behaviors. So we have to teach our students the behaviors we actually want to see more of. And to replace a behavior, we have to replace it with something so they still get their need met. So an example would be, we want to teach the appropriate way to gain attention. We want to teach the appropriate way to access escape. And we want to teach the appropriate way to access a tangible. So here are a couple examples. Ask for an item versus grabbing an item. Do 2 work choices instead of 4 work choices to access escape versus 0 work choices to access escape. You could wait and raise your hand, or if you're really excited about your answer, you could write it down on a piece of paper versus talking out if you're constantly talking out and that's causing issues. You could take a deep breath when you're upset versus scream in the classroom. You could ask for more time on a work choice versus expressing frustration by ripping up your work. You could play with a fidget appropriately versus throwing a fidget across the room. So we actually can't just assume that they know how to engage in these behaviors. We actually have to teach them and practice.
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about positive reinforcement of different ways to increase a desired behavior. So these are just some examples of different types of reinforcers. Like if a student's really highly motivated by Play-Doh, we might give them Play-Doh for engaging in the behavior we want to see. This would be kind of like a token economy. The student's working for lunch with a friend, but you could also replace the square with 5 minutes of Play-Doh time. And what the student's working on is staying in their seat. And once they get their 5 stars, they get to access their lunch with a friend, or they get to access 5 minutes of Play-Doh. Free time could be a reinforcer. Class dojo, if school is using class dojo points, can be a reinforcer. Giving a student a break can be a reinforcer. Just telling them, good job, you're awesome, can be positive attention, can be a reinforcer. Giving them a high five or a fist bump can also be a reinforcer. So those we're going to talk about. So these are different types of reinforcement. So sensory reinforcement would give different types of sensory stimulation for a student, like music, lights, sensory room, calm down corner, tactile objects, or a yoga ball. Edible reinforcers are foods that have a reinforcing function. So instead of giving a kid an entire bag of pretzels or an entire bag of fruit snacks, you would, or an entire bowl of carrots, they're going to satiate on that really quickly. So if we are using edible reinforcers with a student, we want to just give them one small piece at a time. Okay. Tangible reinforcers, they might want to be accessing a preferred toy or a fidget or special smelly markers or a Chromebook. Activity reinforcers could be access to activities that are reinforcing to that student, like putting a dance up on the smartboard or playing a game on the Chromebook or coloring or extra recess or listening to music or getting to play basketball in the gym or being a special helper to the teacher, to the office. Social reinforcers are access to people or peers' attention that's reinforcing. So if you know that there's 2 kids that really like each other and they're besties, maybe make sure that you create a situation where they get some time with each other, they get to sit by each other. Or if you as the student advocate if a student really, really likes you and your attention, maybe they can earn going on a walk around the building with you because you know that they really like your attention. So you're very reinforcing to that student.
Right.
So what we got to do is we can't just assume something's reinforcing to a student. We need to actually find out what that student likes or what the whole class likes. In your situation, you're more so working with individual students, but some teachers are looking at their whole class. So if the reinforcer that's given right after the behavior occurs doesn't increase the behavior, then that reinforcer is not reinforcing to that student. So it's not like, oh, it's not working. It means they don't care about extra recess. That doesn't motivate them.
Right.
So this is just an example of different options that I've seen teachers use. So like Takis are really, really popular right now.
They?
Yeah, they're really popular. We try to stay away from edibles as much as possible, of course, but if you're working with a very difficult student and you're not finding many other options to be reinforcing, then you could use a food reinforcer if you have permission from the parent. And you also would only give like one chip, not a bag of chips. You would just give small amounts. So we also could do a positive note home. Kindergartners, first graders, second graders will often be excited by a sticker. Class dojo point, one fruit snack. This could be just visiting time. Like a lot of kids just like time to visit with their friends. So maybe they get 5 minutes of free time to visit. Maybe they get a cool little eraser. Maybe they get a ticket for the 200 club if your school gives out tickets. Maybe they get to watch 5 minutes of a school appropriate kid YouTube video of like drones or something that is fun to watch, or a cool pencil. So again, there's many more options than these, but you would want to kind of present some options to your student and say, like, what do you like on here? Or even say, is there something on here? Is there something not on here that you have an idea of that you would like to work towards? And then kind of make a list of like number 1 preference, number 2 preference, and have like a hierarchy of what they're interested in, and then switch it up so they don't burn out on it. So when to reinforce the positive behavior that we want to see. So the more immediate, the more effective. So as soon as you catch the student engaging in the appropriate behavior is when we want to reinforce. Like, so 0 to 1 minute is the ideal. Now in a school environment, that is not always possible, but when it is, if you're working with a kid, is a great time. So if they say, you know, can I please have a break? Or even just, can I have a break? You would immediately want to say, thank you so much for asking appropriately for a break. That's so awesome. You can absolutely have a break. The quicker you can give them that break, since they're asking for it, and give them a bunch of verbal praise, the more effective that's going to be, that they're going to ask for a break again. We really want to try not to delay reinforcement, because we can accidentally reinforce the wrong behavior. So if we're not giving the reinforcement until the end of the day or the end of the week, like going to Fun Friday, sometimes that's just too delayed for certain students. It's not to say don't do Fun Friday or don't reinforce at the end of the day, but just if it's a student that's having a really hard time, it's going to need to be more immediate, like hour by hour. Delayed consequences do not reinforce behavior directly. So like if you do blank today, you don't get to go to the class party tomorrow. That can oftentimes just be then the next day they could be engaging in a ton of appropriate behavior and then feel like they have a punishment. So we really want each day to get to be a new day. Some students that really struggle even need each hour to be new, or morning to be one time frame and afternoon to be another time frame to start over. And we recommend, you know, that we really focus on the school environment only, because if we bring in the home environment, there's so many variables we don't have control over. So we don't really want to be like, oh, you know, so-and-so did this today, and then the parent says, well, now you don't get to play video games for a whole week, because that's just so disconnected, and it's hard to have that communication and that connection for that student. So we really want to try to just be looking at the school environment when we're giving reinforcement. So positive reinforcement in the form of attention. So adult or peer attention is a really powerful reinforcer of students' behavior. So really most students just want attention of a peer or an adult, and if they can't get it behaving appropriately, they'll often behave inappropriately to get it. So we can think we're giving attention a lot, but some things that can really help is like setting a timer on your iPhone in your pocket. This is called a motivator, but they're more expensive. The Gym Boss over here does the same thing. These are about $14 on Amazon. Or you could write a little star on your hand to remind yourself. these timers, what they do is you can set intervals and they just vibrate in your pocket. So you can set a timer for every 5 minutes and it will go off and vibrate every 5 minutes all day long. Or you could do every 2 minutes, or you could do every 30 minutes, like whatever is going to work for you and your job schedule and that individual student's needs. And like, and then what you want to do is every time that vibration goes off, you want to catch the student doing something appropriately and give them a ton of praise and a ton of attention. And that's one way that we often work with teachers and paras to help students that are seeking attention.